What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome. I am your host, Hogan, here on Between the Tackles. We are back. We're finally back. Well, I should say somebody specifically is finally back. My man, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Burge Jones. How you doing, buddy? It's been a bit.
It is fantastic to be back. Guess what? The best time of the year is upon us.
That's right.
As we
That's
record
right.
today, the preseason is wrapped up. We got cut down day coming. We got Thursday night opening kickoff coming in about a week and a half from today. Let's get to it. Dude, I'm so pumped. This summer has been long without no sports to really care about. You and I both don't care about baseball, right? We're not big baseball guys. We really don't care about
Nope.
that. Our sports take place starting in the fall and going through the the late spring, early summer stages. So it's kind of been the dog days of summer when it comes to sports. I'm ready to get back into watching some meaningful sports. How about you? Let's go.
You're preaching to the choir there, and especially after watching that puke fest last night that we called a final preseason game for the Patriots there. Woof. Woof. I mean, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of that later as much as I don't want to, but yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It's awesome that the preseason is finally and as much as you look forward to it every year where it's like the Super Bowl ends and then it's like
Yeah.
you're just dying for any kind of football. So like I get all jacked up and excited when it's the first like preseason game, like that Hall of Fame game, and then like
Mhm.
it just tanks after that because you just know at the bottom of your heart it's like this is what am I doing? This is preseason. It has nothing to do with what I want to watch right now. Just give me real meaningful football, which is what we all want. And like you said, we're I think what 10 days away from that right now, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. By the time we're recording this, by the time you guys are listening to it, it'll be much closer. Which thank God for that. But yeah, no, we got an exciting opening game for to start the season. We got what the Chiefs versus the Ravens on Thursday Night Football to kick off the season, and then immediately after that, if I'm not mistaken, it's Green Bay and Philly down in
Hmm.
Brazil. You know, as long as they're not getting shut up by the gangs there with all the whole color issue that they had going on. But yeah, no, like you said, it's right around the corner, and we could not be more excited to dive back into it with everything that's going on. But oh, go ahead, man.
You just real quick. You were talking about like how like we had all geared up and ready to go for football season. That's exactly how I was leading up to that Hall of Fame game. And then I watched a little bit of the Hall of Fame game. I'm like, all right, this is just a tease. It's just a
Yep.
tease at this point. Like, let's get into the real thing. I appreciate that these preseason games offer the opportunity to the lesser known guys to really make a name for themselves and to
Mm,
make an NFL roster, which as a diehard fan, that's cool to like buy into some of those storylines, but like it doesn't happen enough to really like capture you as like a casual if you're a casual fan of the game or anything like
yeah.
that. Um, but I'm just ready for real football. There's been a lot of sloppy football. You kind of hit on it with the Patriots game that we watched last night, and ready for the
I was gonna
product.
say I think the big thing is that it's really hard to market the preseason in general, just because at the end of the day, like you said, if it's not a known name that's on the field, you know, blowing it up and doing crazy stuff at the time, like people, like you said, casual fans aren't going to care too much about it. But at the same time, it is kind of cool to see these guys. Like my biggest thing that I love with the preseason is the draft. Like when your team, especially us this year as Patriot fans, we're really looking forward to like seeing what, you know, what is Drake May going to do? What is Joe Milton going to do? What are these offensive like linemen that they took, not doing anything obviously, but like just in general, like it's good to see like the rookies and what they can bring to the table. And it's such a hard thing to judge though, because obviously their talent level is brand spanking new to the NFL. But then on top of that, they could be going against guys that aren't going to be in the league tomorrow, or, you know, third or fourth string guys that are just, so it's such a hard thing to judge. But it's like, but also at the same time, like the big thing was I realized like last night I was like I was kind of agitated because usually the Patriots play their preseason games on Thursday nights where you just at 7 o'clock and the game's over by like 10. I'm like, all right, good, don't care, good night. Well, last night it was like Sunday Night Football, and I'm like, why the hell are they like amping this up like it's a great matchup? And I'm going, it was supposed to be Drake May versus Jaden Daniels. That's what that's what it was the NFL was trying to hype it up, like the number 2 pick overall versus the number 3 pick overall, which granted, had Jane Daniels played, like, that would have been really cool to like, I
Yep.
guarantee you that would have, like, opened a lot of people to be like, "Hell yeah, I wanna watch this because it's number 2 versus number 3." Instead, Jane Daniels didn't play, Drake May played, but he literally just got again, we'll go over the
But
fine details of that, but that's
you
just the
think
preseason.
if you think the NFL really wanted that though, why are they scheduling it as the last preseason game? Like, why? Why if you're gonna want to see that true matchup and see them play for a period of time, put it in the middle. Put it in the middle. We all know what Jaden Daniels locked up the starting job. You knew he wasn't going to play in that game. They're not going to risk him getting hurt. It's his starting quarterback. Where Drake May is supposedly still fighting for the starting position. We'll get into that when the time comes. But like, it's
I
just,
see
and
I see both sides of it.
the other part of it too is I'm sure they're giving it this a warm up for the Sunday night NFL crew to
Yeah.
like, hey, you guys are getting ready to go on big time in a couple of weeks in like a week and a half. Let's This
Well,
is
that
a
was the
good tune
thing.
up for you.
Yeah, because it was Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico doing the usual calls for Sunday Night Football, but yeah, I see both sides, right? Like, I get your standpoint where Jaden Daniels did have it locked up last week, and they probably weren't gonna play him, but at the same time, if you look at what the Patriots did, where it was like, they're still claiming that there's a true competition, so, like, Drake May got meaningful playing time in that game, so, I mean, to an extent. He certainly got more playing time than that first fucking preseason game where he played what, like
A
3
series.
snaps?
Put a
Like, that
series,
was
yeah.
the dumbest thing. Like, come on. Like, that's what infuriates me the most about preseason. I started going on a rant here because it agitates me when you have a limited amount of time to see these guys do things where like that was the most things that I got like so for those of you out there, obviously again, we are a Patriots pro heavy podcast. We encompass everything with the NFL, but like for me personally as a Pats fan, the biggest thing that I took away from the preseason was the development of Joe Milton, who is
Mhm.
probably going to be the third or possibly fourth quarterback on the roster, depending on what happens with Bailey Zappi. But the big thing with that was like Joe Milton, it was great to see like his progressions, like his cannon of a freaking arm, which is incredible. But like, I'm not going to see Joe Milton get on that field hopefully within the next 2 or 3 years. If he's on the field in a actual live game, like we got some big effing problems across
A lot
the
of
board.
injuries. A lot of injuries.
I hope it's injuries because otherwise, holy shit, what are we doing? But like that's the thing is like I want to see the progression of those guys that could potentially be future something for either your team or possibly another team, like a trade bait kind of thing. Like you don't know, but it's always good to see what you can get. And the biggest thing with Drake May is like you and I have the expectation that he should not play this year as far as we're concerned. And that first game against the Eagles, to have him go out there and play barely a series and then just the Bailey Zappi show after that for like 3 quarters. We've seen Bailey
We've
Zappi.
seen
We
enough of
know
it.
what the fuck he is useless about and we don't care anymore. Okay. Like, get him out of here already. Cut him. Like, Jesus Christ, I'll pack his bags for him. I don't need to see Bailey Zappi more than I have the last 2 fucking seasons where I know exactly what I'm getting for that product. I want to see Drake May. I want to see Joe Milton. And across the league, that should be the way that it's handled unless those guys have locked up that starting position like a Jaden Daniels has. But like that's the thing that's going to sell you tickets in the preseason. And I think that's a big thing that I'm looking forward to is if the NFL decides to go to 18 games, which is going to be inevitable because they just want to make more money.
Mhm.
I actually really like the idea that they brought up during the game last night. Tarico actually brought it up, I believe. And his selling point was like, obviously you only have 2 preseason games, but at the same time, have open scrimmages when the teams are practicing with each other and like sell that as like you have like these scrimmages like these 7-on-7s or whatever where like film it and like have it be like kind of like a skills competition kind of thing like almost like a Pro Bowl kind of because the Pro Bowl's a fucking joke now with what it is but like just an idea that you want to incentivize the preseason or whatever before you go to that 18 game schedule like that's kind of a cool idea that he brought up but again we're not at 18 games yet so we'll see what happens with that but enough of me ranting and raving about the preseason. The preseason's over. It's done. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Fuck the preseason. We're moving on to some news that actually dropped today. Burge, I want to get your take on this real quickly. CD Lamb for the Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? How about CD Lamb? He just got freaking paid. I want to say it's a 4-year, $136 million contract, which I believe the notification I got said that it's like the second highest non QB contract of all time. What are your
Yep.
thoughts, man? Does he deserve it?
Yes, and Dallas had to make this commitment to him, given how they handled Amari Cooper when everything went down with him leaving when they traded him out. Obviously, they had their own cap problems for other reasons, which this extension may cause that. We'll get into that in a little bit, but they absolutely had to pay him. He had an outstanding season last year. Obviously, fantasy wise, dude, he helped me win a championship having him as on my team. Guy's a baller. He's their clear cut number one. There's really not a whole heck of a lot behind him down there for Dak Prescott to throw the ball to. He still has Brandon Cooks, but we know what Brandon Cooks is at this point. Exactly. They had to do this, and I think he's worth every dollar. The cap's going to go up. I mean, it's hard for me to say it's just money because it's $136 million, but to Jerry Jones, it's just chump change. Like,
Yeah.
Dude's loaded, had to pay his star guy to be on the field. If he's not on the field for the Dallas Cowboys, there's really no real true threat offensively for them, in my opinion. So they absolutely had to get this done, and I think he's going to be worth it. As long as he stays healthy. But it's the trend we're seeing in the league these days. These wide receivers coming off their rookie deals are getting bags. They are getting paid before they even have to play under the 5th-year option, which is what happened in CeeDee Lamb's case. He was, I think, slated to play under the 5th-year option this year before the contract was signed. And he was obviously not participating in camp because of this. He was holding in, as they say. But yeah, I think it was a move that was going to happen. It was just a matter of when. He's one of the best wide receivers in the league today. So
I was just
what are your
I was gonna. Well, you brought up something about how it's chump change for Jerry Jones, and if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw an article not too long ago that said that I could be wrong with the numbers here, but I think I saw something that said that Cowboys are the first sports franchise to break the double-digit billion-dollar worth, like something like I think they're worth like $10 billion. I think that was like the whole thing was like they're the first and I could be wrong. I know they were worth like 6 billion or something crazy. I mean, we could look it up, but like you said, it's freaking chump change. The guy spent over $2 billion to build the stadium down there. Beautiful stadium. I love it. Trust me. Like I said, it makes Gillette look like a dump hole, which it is compared to what that is down there. But like that's the thing is obviously it's very difficult to maneuver with the salary cap and the way that these bloated contracts are just flying around out there now, especially where you see guys that you got to take advantage of the time that you have with them, and I think I think a part of it that I look at was he was kind of hesitant to give out that kind of money because of what happened with the whole Zeke situation, a couple of years prior where they gave Zeke the bag and he just fell off that cliff, like declined immediately.
That's what you get for
Granted,
paying a running back.
Well, that's it too, is the whole, what position and whatnot. I mean, but CD's obviously proven what he's capable of doing. I mean, last year alone, I think didn't he have like something insane, like 130, 140 catches or whatever, and I don't know, a ridiculous amount of yards. And like you said, he was really the Dallas offense last year, if you think about it.
135 receptions last year.
135. That's go back what 15 years ago. That's a record breaking other than Marvin Harrison. But
yeah, the benchmark used to be like 100. You had over 100, you were like elite, top of the
that's
town,
it.
top of the pool.
That's exactly. So he's doing exactly what he needs to do, and he deserves every penny of what he's getting. I mean, I put him right up there with your Justin Jeffersons, your AJ Brown types that they got the bags and they deserve it too. I'm curious though, because I want to say the last receiver that has yet to get the bag that probably deserves it, I want to say is Jamar Chase. And I think he's still holding in, if I'm not mistaken, about that too. So that's going to be a very interesting thing to follow now, because obviously they got Joe Cool Burrow. That's, he's going to get paid no matter what. I don't know if he has yet, actually. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't know if Burrow's been paid, but either way, Jamar Chase is probably due the money that he's due at this point, seeing all these other guys get paid And I kind of want to bring that back really quickly because we haven't been on the air in a little bit with our podcast. I want to bring this back to somebody that we didn't have in the agenda before, but we had Matt Judon actually got traded recently to Atlanta, and that was a big contention with the whole money thing that people were screaming about him not getting paid. Really quickly, Burgess, if you want to touch on that, are you okay with how that whole thing went through with a third round pick to Atlanta? And then there were reports that the Patriots kind of offered him, like, I guess Chicago and Atlanta were the two teams, and they gave him his pick, and he was upset because he wanted to sit down with Patriots like front office, and they declined for some reason. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of crap that's out there right now, but end of the day, Judon's gone, who was arguably the best player on the team, and he's gone for a third round pick. You happy with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I was very upset to see him traded as he's a fan favorite up here in New England. We know that. And he was a stud on the field. I'll say that early in the season when he was healthy, obviously he had issues where in the 2 seasons I think he was here, right, he was healthy. By the time late November, December rolled around, he was nowhere to be found. He was a shell of himself, whether he was dinged up or he's, just showing his age or whatever. But in terms of the return, I was stunned they got a third round pick back for him. Guy didn't play last year, essentially. He was out pretty much the whole season with an injury. And, the Patriots have no business having these types of players on their roster right now. We know that. We'll get into that when we talk about their roster breakdown later in the episode here. They're a rebuilding team, clearly, not contending for anything. Adding to that draft pool and getting a third round pick, I thought at best they were going to get maybe a fifth for him, given his age and, the fact that he wanted an extension and this and that. But I think it's a great move by Elliott Wolf in the front office to maximize that asset, knowing that when the Patriots are able to contend again, he's not going to be here. And I think that's obvious, given how the Patriots rebuilding path looks as of today. So being able to maximize that asset and get something back for it, a pretty high draft pick, in my opinion, I think is a slam dunk move. And I think an interesting caveat to this whole thing was that Judon's not demanding an extension down in Atlanta. He's ready to just play under it because, he's in a new place. And he made the point to say that, they're not paying me for what I used to do, or something along those lines. Somewhere else, they're paying me for what I'm going to do here, and he's going to try to earn his money moving on. I think he felt entitled to an extension if he was going to stay in New England, and that's probably part of the state of the team and, his role on the team as being like the leader, the star on that defense. I'd say he's probably number one, that the first name people think of when you think about the Patriots, not in New England, is Matthew Judon. But I wish him nothing but the best because he was a great personality when he would talk. His GMing on Twitter was hilarious. Trying to get people to get here. He had a pretty bad track record though, because he really wasn't able to get anything done, but it was entertaining nonetheless.
Yeah, agreed. No, I'm gonna miss the red sleeves as well, and his signature, wiping the mouth with the sleeves sack celebration he used to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to admit, I kind of agree with you, but at the same time, it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow, knowing that he was the best player currently on the roster up to the point that he got traded, and to see him go for a third round pick. I mean, granted, I didn't think a lot about like what you were talking about earlier with his age and the fact that he's not under a contract or anything. Oh, I should say the last year of his contract and everything. And I was that push where I was like, oh, they could have gotten more from him, especially if they wanted to swindle somebody, because there's teams out there. And I guess
I think they did swindle. I think they did swindle Atlanta with this.
a little bit, but I also like what jumps out to me that I'm kind of not okay with is the fact that they gave him the choice where it's like, oh, do you want to go to Chicago or do you want to go to Atlanta? And it's like, why are we doing players favors at this point? Where if you go back the last like 6 or 7 years where we did favors towards the end of Belichick's tenure, where we traded Gronk to Tampa for a fourth fucking round pick. And then we also gave Tampa Shaq Mason for nothing.
Shaq Mason was a little bit more of a kick in the nuts. Gronk wasn't going to play here. He was just coming out of retirement. He was coming out of retirement.
I agree.
The Patriots just had his contract.
But that's the thing is like, you're going to sit there and tell me that we couldn't have swindled Tampa Bay, Brady would have thrown a fucking screaming kicking fest if he couldn't get his favorite tight end of all time to come down there and play with him. Like, and we gave him up for a 4th-round pick. I don't give a shit. It's either we hold the rights to him and we don't give Tampa one of the best tight ends of all time, or we get a 4th-round pick. I'm going to sit there and have him by the balls and be like, no, give me more than a 4th-round pick. I mean, Jesus Christ, we got Randy Moss for a 4th-round pick. It's at the end of the day, like, I got to look at that and be like, I always go back to I go and kick, you want to call them Oakland, but like Vegas Raiders. Like, we swindled that team. How many times did we swindle that team between, like I said, Randy Moss for a 4th-round pick? We
Richard
gave
Seymour.
like Richard Seymour, who was like fucking 40 years old. We got a 1st-round pick for him.
I think that pick turned into Gerard Mayo too.
No, that was a 49ers pick because it was top 10. I know what you're going with, but like I said, that's my point though, is you can't tell me there aren't still teams out there that are dumb enough to give up really, really good draft capital for guys that don't deserve. I mean, we gave up a 2nd-round pick for Mohamed fucking Sanu in Brady's last year. And that still bothers me. I think it's one of the worst trades that Belichick ever made in his tenure as the Patriots coach. But like, that's my point, is just there's too many dumb teams out there. We don't need to be doing anybody any favors with the fact that we're as bad as we are. And eh, again, going off on a tangent here, but the reason that we can segue greatly from this topic into the next topic that we're going to talk about, speaking of dumb trades and dumb teams, our favorite team that we love to pick on, or I should say my favorite team to pick on in the AFC East, those goddamn Jets, finding themselves in a whole nother situation again. I mean, you think the tables are finally turning for them, where you got healthy Aaron Rodgers, you got Garrett Wilson, you got a stud defense. They go out and they trade for Hassan Reddick, who is certifiably a beast. Like, he is no slouch at the defensive end position. He wreaked havoc for the Philadelphia Eagles for quite a few years now. They go out and they trade for Reddick, not even into the season, and Reddick's demanding a trade from the Jets because they refuse to give him an extension. That's what he's looking for. He's looking to get the bag. And I think like I said, talking earlier about like teams that have ponied up for like what people deserve, I think Reddick deserves a good chunk of change for what he's been able to bring to the table, because Philly wouldn't have gotten as far as they did without him, the way that they made the last couple of years. What are your thoughts on this? Is it just the Jets being the Jets again? I mean, is Reddick overblowing this whole thing? Should he just shut up and play? What are your thoughts on this?
Real quick before I get into that, because I brought up the Gerard Mayo trade, I want to
Okay.
just tell you, I just did some quick research to make sure that you were right on that. And I'm looking at this trade, the trade tree of that. It's unbelievable. Like, the
It-
Patriots traded their 1st-round selection in '07, one of the late picks, to San Francisco for that pick from San Francisco in 2008, and a 4th-round selection in the 2007 draft. And that
Yep.
was the pick that was traded for Randy Moss. So they ended up trading one pick in 2007 and got Randy Moss and Gerard Mayo out of it, and
Yeah.
in addition to a couple of later round picks. That just blew my mind because I never knew that. So I wanted to get into that and say that real quick.
I do.
But
The only reason why I remember that is because Mayo was the highest pick in the last like 20
yeah,
year span,
yeah,
because of like the Patriots record. Like, towards the end of the 1st round, we were always picking like 30. It seemed like 30 or like higher or whatever.
mhm.
And I just remember it being like, that was a 10th pick. And I remember I was thinking, like, going into that draft, I was like, Belichick is going to fucking get like 14 picks for this number 10 overall pick. Like, there's no way he's actually selecting somebody. And it was like from the 49ers. And then when he took Gerard Mayo, I was just like, what the fuck just happened? But I digress. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue. Sorry, go ahead about Reddick. What are your thoughts on him?
Sorry about the tangent, but yeah, getting back to Reddick, yeah, it's just a typical Jets move. They acquire this player. I think they probably knew he wanted an extension, and they're like, "Yeah, no, we're gonna play hardball with you. You're gonna come here and you're gonna play under what you got, and that's it." Like, okay, okay, Jets. Like, I can't believe that they're the type of people that would trade for a player and then immediately have the player request a trade out. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. But I mean, the the Jets are clearly in a win now mode, given their moves that they made to get Aaron Rodgers, and obviously they have a lot of young talent that's really starting to blossom into their primes. just pay the guy for God's sake. Like, give him the money and see what you can do to win a division that's, I think, up for grabs this year. I think a lot of people think that the AFC East is up for grabs for everybody except the Patriots. And why would you even let it get to this point to sour the guy? Because now you've kind of soured the relationship. Like, even if you end up paying him, he's still going to have the fact that you made me do this. You made me request a trade publicly. You made me do all this after you gave up a pick to acquire me at the draft. What are you doing? Like the goddamn Jets. I just think of Big Daddy when that whole quote goes on. Who do you want to win tonight? The goddamn Jets.
Yep.
Like it's the same story with them. And it's like it's going to be another something else is going to happen. Now it happens in threes. Something else is going to happen that's going to just derail their season again. And at least it'll be good theater for us as we're sucking our way through 2024 NFL season just to watch them like try to actually go for it and have it fall flat on their face.
That's right. That's right. Well, like I said, it'll be an interesting thing to see how it pans out with them. Obviously, where they've had such shit luck for the last 40 years at this point, and more specifically the last few years with everything that's transgressed with obviously Aaron Rodgers and that whole situation. But there are also a couple other real quickly transactions that I want us to talk about, leading up to the end of the preseason here, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot more to talk about in the upcoming weeks, depending on roster cuts and everything like that. But really quickly, this doesn't move the needle really for me. I mean, a lot of people are interested in this, but Malik Willis traded to the Packers. Does that do anything for you?
No, it's just a backup QB move. I think it's just a big deal because I think he was the best QB of his class or one of the best of his class that was taken in like the second or third round. He was drafted. It's just it's a nothing move, but it's just a name moving, a QB name moving, which, you never know what happens with injuries if the guy's going to get his chance. So
True. Another one that comes to mind is Dotson to Dotson. We got Dotson here. I think that was a Jurassic Park that quote all the time. Dotson to the Eagles. For me, I mean, granted, it makes their receiving room more dangerous, but again, can only get the ball to one guy every play at a time. So, I mean, you already got AJ Brown, you got Devontae Smith. I mean, Dotson's not bad in any standpoint. Like, I think he was not a terrible receiver for Washington, but at the same time, Philly's already loaded on that side anyway. I think they need more help defensively, honestly.
I just think it's an interesting move because it's an in-division trade between the Commanders and the Eagles, and Dotson's a former first-round pick.
Is he really?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
No shit.
He was. I think he's a former first-round pick, and seeing him move out, he never really clicked there. But Washington has been they've been awful too, just like everybody else. Yeah, he's a 16th overall pick in 2022. So like the mid first round pick that's not panning out right now. Now he's going to a team that seemingly has their crap together offensively there. He's going to be in a kind of a reduced role.
It's interesting because that's I was thinking last night, obviously we were watching the game. Obviously Martavius Bryant is taking his 5-year sabbatical, finally is ended, and he's back in the NFL. But Washington, it's kind of an interesting situation there because they let Dotson go to the Eagles, and then is it Dotson or Doxson?
It's
there's a C in there.
It is Dotson. Dotson. Dotson.
Okay, I want to make sure, not Doxson.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they get rid of him. Curtis Samuel signed with the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only receiver other than Martavius Bryant from last night that I knew outside of that was Terry McLaurin, who's, believe it or not, like a lot of people are like kind of down on him in terms of like fantasy. Like I did a fantasy draft not too long ago with one of my buddies, or it's like kind of like sharing ownership of a team. And Terry was on the board, and I was like, "Oh, you want to grab him?" And he's like, he's not that good." And I'm like, he's actually not that bad considering Washington's been ass for like 5+ years. He's had over 1,000 receiving yards every year for the last 4 years.
Yeah, and he's missed 2 games in those 4 years.
That's what I'm saying. Like maybe he doesn't put a mind-blowing stats, but like he's still a pretty good. I would take him on the Patriots.
Yeah, come up to New England, please.
Right? So yeah, no, it's interesting to see what Washington's doing there. Again, it's the whole Dan Quinn show down there. They're more focused on defense, and Jaden Daniels is going to probably be throwing in no names, and we'll see what happens. They'll probably be picking in the top 3 like we will be next year anyway. But a couple more that I just want to touch on really quickly. A couple of old Patriots making some new homes again, where Juju is, well, not really new. It's an old familiar place for him as well. Juju got cut and he officially returned to the Chiefs today. Whether that actually sticks or not is going to be interesting because he was just a shell of what he was. I mean, I always thought he was decent with Pittsburgh, and then he wasn't terrible for the Chiefs, but he never was like mind blowing for them.
Hmm.
But the fact that he came to us and did what he did, and then just to go back to the Chiefs now, it's just like,
He's still
ugh.
only 27.
Yeah, but his knee is
Like,
just like,
yeah.
from everything that I'm reading, is just like he shouldn't even be able to walk anymore. But
Yeah, I mean, I think they've had some injuries. Hollywood Brown's out.
yeah,
They have the whole Rashee Rice situation,
true.
and they have
Maybe it's just like a safety blanket kind of
yeah,
thing.
like he's not going to have a huge role there. Like I can't imagine he will if he can even stay on the field.
Yeah. So like I said, we'll move on from that. Juju to the Chiefs, and then Stephon Gilmore, former defensive player of the year back when he was playing for us, signs with the Vikings. Kind of a curious situation there where he went from Dallas, who was kind of like, you can make the argument for being a contender because they're such a loaded team down there in Dallas, especially last year. They seemed like they had their shit together until they pooped their pants in the first round of the playoffs again. But for Gilmore to sign with the Vikings, is he just getting a paycheck at this point? That's what you got to figure, right? Because the
Well,
Vikings are completely rebuilding down there, or up there, I should say.
they also have got decimated at their corner position, with injuries, and I think they had one of their young rookies or young player passed away at some point during the offseason too.
Oh, yes,
So
yes, yeah, you're right.
he's filling in. He's filling basically a void for that team there.
Mm,
Brian Flores is there as a defensive coordinator, so there's a bit of a connection. Like I mean, Gilmore's probably is collecting a paycheck at this point. He's one ring. He's got his ring, and he's on the wrong side of 30. So
yeah,
probably trying to stick around as much as he can, and it'll be interesting to see how it fits there.
yeah, true, true. Well, speaking of the Vikings and speaking of injuries, uh,
Your
JJ
pick,
McCarthy,
your
JJ
pick
McCarthy.
for
Well,
stud
hey,
of the draft.
dude. So believe it or not, the one preseason game that he played in, he
He did
didn't
look
look
pretty good.
half bad,
Yeah.
right? So I could have been onto something had the knee not imploded. Yeah, the was a meniscus full meniscus tear was what the
Something
report
like
came
that.
out
Yeah.
being. Out for this season. So back to the drawing board for the Minnesota Vikings and Kevin O'Connell, former Patriot again. Um, Sam Darnold is now the guy in Minnesota. If you're a Minnesota fan, are you just ready to like jump off like swan dive off the highest cliff you can find, or like
I,
what the hell is going on with that franchise?
I'm curious about how this is going to work out because when Sam Darnold has played, he has played for two dumpster fire organizations in the
Mm,
Jets and Carolina. I thought he was a pretty good backup last year for San Francisco. I think he did get
yeah,
in a few times too, and he looked half decent when he was in there. I'm really curious to see how this is going to work out with a guy like Kevin O'Connell as his offensive coach. I'm very curious to see if he actually maybe turns into something effective for quarterback. He's still only 27, so if he actually something actually clicks there, he's got Justin Jefferson to throw to, you know, Aaron Jones in his backfield. So like their offense is no slouch when it comes to talent. So it'll be curious to see how that plays out.
yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that I think is still the uphill battle for them is that division should really be,
Yeah.
firing on all cylinders going forward. Now Detroit's made that turnaround. They have Green Bay was that dark horse last year that they're not going to sneak up on people now,
Nope.
and then even Chicago. We've had the conversation on here a bunch of times with Manish and between the two of us where Chicago, by all like standards, should take that leap going forward now, where they can't be the crap team that they've been. And if they are, then hey, just clean house of everybody because there's the first round picks they stockpiled. Caleb Williams supposed to be
Yep.
the once in a generation guy. You got Keenan Allen, you got DJ Moore, you got I don't know who else. They got a bazillion guys there.
DeAndre
I mean,
Swift.
DeAndre Swift. Yeah, it's just like I said, the names keep coming and they need to perform now. Like they can't. And like I
Yeah,
said,
don't forget
Minnesota.
Robert Lindsay, first round
Yeah,
wide receiver
that's
too.
right.
I mean, that's a pretty good wide receiver room they got there.
That's what I mean. Is like Minnesota is unfortunately picking a bad time to, decline the way that they are with injuries and everything else that's falling apart for them. But it is what it is. They got to figure it out. Again, the NFL, it's next man up. You never know what could happen. I mean, it happens to all teams every year. And like I said, knock on wood, really quickly, we're talking about JJ McCarthy. Knock on wood, he's the only, like, I want to say big name that got knocked out in the
Yeah.
preseason this year, which is like, that's impressive because how many years back can you go where it's the first day of training camp or, first week, first preseason game that a big name goes down or something? I mean, it's just
Mhm.
constantly, you're always hearing about it. And like I said, with you and I, before we just got on and started recording, McCarthy was really the only mega name that I saw that was really just
Yeah.
we didn't see injuries. And the only other injury really quickly that I'll just touch on is just Chubb going to be out for the first 4 games. And we all know what
Expected
happened to him
that.
last year with his knee just absolutely exploding.
Mhm.
But other than that, no, injuries have been really, really good. So let's keep it knocking on wood. We're not going to talk about it anymore. Fuck the injuries. We're out of preseason. We're done with the injuries. We're going to go into some preseason quarterback news. Burge, my man, take it away.
So the big thing I want to touch on when we're talking about this is this rookie class. We had 6 quarterbacks taken. What was it, in the top 15, something like that, of this NFL draft last year, and producing a lot of playing talent. Obviously, Caleb Williams was starting. Jaden Daniels was named the starting quarterback for Washington. Drake May is, for all intents and purposes, in an open, true competition and has outplayed Jacoby Brissett in New England. We'll get to that shortly. Bo Nix was named the starter for Denver and Sean Payton's offense out there in Mile High Country. The only ones that weren't, I think JJ McCarthy was going to be slated as the starter for the Minnesota Vikings before the knee gave out. The only one who's not, and this is the one that surprised the hell out of us when he was drafted, and we had a good clip of that. Michael Penix is sitting behind Kirk Cousins. I think everybody expected that. There was no surprise there, but I think it's incredible to think how many of these rookies are actually playing day one or, you know, right there to play day one. And I think that's kind of shows you the state of the league. We'll see how many of them pan out. Been a lot of flashes in the preseason, but as we talked about, you're playing against guys that may not even be playing on Sundays in the fall. So I think that's incredible to see. And, something that's not so incredible to see, and it's kind of laughable to see fans talk about it, is our good friend McCorkle Jones down in Jacksonville. And I don't want to take shots at Jacksonville as we've done so many times on this podcast.
I will. Fuck them. Fuck
Go,
Macaroni
take it
Jones.
away. Go.
No, I'm kidding. It's Trevor Lawrence that they care about down there, not Macaroni. Well, I hope they don't care about Macaroni Jones. If they're caring about him, they got some big problems down there after getting Trevor Lawrence got his payday. So,
Yeah.
but I'm not touching Trevor Lawrence again. I learned my lesson. Keep going. What do we got on Macaroni? Fuck that clown, by
He's
the way.
actually looked half decent playing down there. And you got some people floating around the Twitter sphere and everything, fans freaking out. Oh, they see the Patriots ruined him. He's a good quarterback. It's the Patriots' fault. The dude is playing against scrubs. He's playing against scrubs in the preseason. Let him go out there and get knocked around a little bit by a good team and see what happens with McCorkle. I'm so happy he's not here anymore. I'm so happy he's not here anymore. We got a better number 10 now. And that's Drake May. And let's segue into last night's debacle for the Patriots. Not going to lie, this will be my confession. This is the only real preseason game that I truly watched for a good portion of, because preseason football just doesn't necessarily do it for me. I'm not
You
going to
didn't
lie.
you didn't miss much if it helps
Yeah, I
anything
was
at that
following
point.
it. I followed
Yeah.
it enough to know. But last night we got to see quite a bit of Drake May, which was nice to see. It had that real football feel. We were talking to about Sunday Night Football. You had Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth in the house, and it actually felt like it's probably the only time we're going to see the Patriots with them calling the game too, which is what's funny. But it felt like football was back and it was good. And just my initial reaction on Drake May in this game, he looked pretty good for a good portion when he was able to stand and throwing the football with two shoes on. With two shoes on, he looked good. He actually looked good with one shoe on too. But there was a one play, I think it was in the second quarter, where he kind of scrambled out, threw off his back foot on the run, going out of bounds, found, I think it was KJ Osborne for a touchdown that was called back by the 15th, whatever, however many penalties it was for illegal formation with Chuck Okafor, or however you say his name, in the backfield, lined up in the backfield, not lined up on the line of scrimmage. Forced Sean Hockley to actually say, once again, number 77 on the offense. Like,
that got me. That got like the fact that he fucking said once again, like, and
yeah,
the sarcasm just dripping from the fucking microphone when he said that. Like,
I was
I want
laughing. I was dying.
I want to pick up my TV and fucking hurl it into the abyss. I was like, this is not happening. This is not fucking
Well,
happening right now. Like,
and this was not this was, I think, his third one. I think it was his third one, but it seemed like for a good portion of I watched the first half of this game. For a good portion of the game, the plays that I saw, there was a flag on New England's offensive line, to be specific. I'm not even getting into the whole center having issues snapping the ball and City so stepping on Drake May's foot as he's dropping back to pass. Like, the offensive line for the Patriots is an absolute shit show. Like, we thought it was bad last year. I think it's going to be 10 times worse this year. And that's withholding the fact that the Patriots not going out and signing one of the available tackles, which I think they absolutely have to do. They have the money to do it. Go out and give one of these guys a contract to at least slot in here and not get all four of your quarterbacks killed, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It happened. Started happening last night. Jacoby Brissett got nailed and he was out for the game. Said shoulder injury. So, like, all right, you're already. Let's just, for the exercise, say, oh, you're already down one. Now you're forcing your rookie to have to go out there and play, no matter what. He gets hurt. Now you're going to throw in the other rookie, and he gets hurt. You're going to be calling a Bailey Zappi again, and we're going to be getting the same shit we got last year. Like, spend the money, get the tackle, because this offensive line is a dumpster fire. And I think some of it will be masked when David Andrews comes back in terms of the communication, the lining up, kind of the intangible aspect to it. But that's only as good as David Andrews staying healthy. He's getting older. He gets dinged up quite a bit throughout the season. Like, the only real, I was kind of ashamed at what Michael Wenning was doing last night. Like, he got flagged for one of those illegal formations too. And it's like, dude, like, I get you haven't played a lot of tackle over the last couple of years, but they just paid you a significant extension, and you're taking stupid penalties like this. Like, they got to clean that up before the regular season starts. And I understand the refs are out there trying to make an emphasis and make points during the preseason when it comes to stuff like this, where they're throwing more flags. They're trying to basically say, we're not tolerating this year. This is going to be called all year. No excuse for the amount of illegal formation penalties. They made their point after the first three, for God's sake. Like, your professional offensive line. Like, where's Dante Scarnecchia when you need him? I'm done.
rolling in his retirement home, laughing at how pathetic the Patriots have become since he's left. Obviously, no, I'm on board with you. I mean, the big thing that I had a good conversation with one of my buddies at work today. We were talking about how going back to the draft this year, and I'm gonna be a little careful how I word this, because I'm hopeful for Drake May. I know I was kind of out on the pick just because it wasn't like a dead shot, like, slam dunk, home run, we nailed it. This is the guy. This is going to be the future, like everything, blah 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 blah. But I go back to Joe Alt, the guy that the tackle from, what was it,
Yeah.
Notre Dame, right? That went to
Yeah.
the Chargers, 5th overall. Imagine if we had that stud beast like that, Joe Alt type, that just was the cornerstone of the offensive line going forward, where every projection I've seen of Joe Alt is going to be that he's going to be the next Joe Thomas, essentially, where he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler, just stalwart left tackle. You don't have to, like, the Chargers should not have to worry about a left tackle for the next like 15 years, is everything that I'm getting from what Joe Alt's supposed to be. Now, granted, like I said, I'm not upset with the May pick as much as I was now, because of seeing him in action, and there were a lot of hopeful plays last night. And like you talked on, like there was the throw to Osborne where he scrambled out of there. I mean, there was a lot of like stuff that he had to kind of make, like backyard bullshit is what I'll call it, because like he took one of the, I'll touch on the bad snaps. I mean, it's inexcusable. Between the bad snaps and May getting stepped on. He's been stepped on in every preseason game.
That's something I did know.
And the snaps are just there's no excuse between shotgun snapping. Like, for Christ's sakes, I don't like playing high school football. I don't think I ever like caused my quarterbacks to fumble as many times as I've seen the Patriots fumble in this preseason with the shotgun snaps. It's fucking pathetic. But like, I just lost my complete train of thought because I got so aggravated about the shotgun snapping. But regardless, Drake May. Oh, that's what I was talking about. Drake May was making things happen. Like there was like I think it was like 3rd and 14, and he scrambled for like 17 yards right up the middle, which was like
Yeah.
good to see because like we haven't seen that kind of intangible from a quarterback in the last 25 years because Brady does not do that. And then, Mac Jones would see a defender and scream and poop his pants and fall down. So it
Mhm.
was good to see May make things happen. Again, a little, I'm hesitant to really laud him with accomplishments because, again, it's preseason. You're going against guys that probably aren't going to play next week or 2 weeks, whatever. So it was good to just see that, and the potential's there. The potential is there, and I'm excited about the potential. That being said, I'm still 1000% on board that I do not want to see Drake May play at all this season. And I have a really bad feeling that last night was kind of like like May could probably start week 1 and like do things and stuff. And it's like, no, don't go down that path because it's going to be, you can't throw a gem, a potential gem. You don't know what it is yet, but a potential gem. You can't throw it into a dumpster fire and expect it to come out, smelling like roses. That's the problem I see with it right now. And like and everything that you touched on in the last couple minutes with what you were talking about with the offensive line, you could put Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes behind that offensive line, and they're going to get fucking murdered. They're going
Mhm.
to get murdered because I've seen high school and college teams offensive line play better than that dog shit performance I saw from the Patriots offensive line, not just last night, but all preseason.
Against the Commanders' backups.
And that was supposed
Against the backups.
and the big thing that a lot of people are talking about is like, oh, David Andrews, David Andrews.
No.
David Andrews is old. He's old, and I'm sorry as a Patriot homer, I love David Andrews. He is far, 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 far from being the best center in the league. He is not
Yeah.
what he was, 5 years ago or whatever. Even then, he still wasn't the best 5 years ago. Like, that
He's
is not gonna fix your
32.
problems.
He's
That's not gonna fix your
32
problems.
and he's injury plagued. So,
That's what I
like,
mean.
yeah, like when I mention him, I'm like the intangible aspects, the communication, the
Yeah.
not messing up snaps,
Mhm.
making sure the team is lined up on the protections are correct. That's stuff that he's gonna be for. Now, I'm not. He's gonna get burnt this season by the younger kids. He's older. He's probably gonna get hurt. As much as I hate to say that, because I love him for what he brings to the team, the way he carries himself. You know, his presence on the field, the offensive line is better when he's there. But if you left tackle can't line up right after being flagged twice for the same penalty and commits the same thing a third time, the problem's beyond his fixing. It's with the
That's
play.
that's
It's with the personnel. It's with the talent on the offensive line. And I agree with you about Drake May. I don't want to see him play at all this year. I really want them to take the Kansas City approach with him. Granted, Kansas City was in a better position talent-wise elsewhere on the roster when they made that decision. But at the end of the day, Drake May is still 21 years old. He's still a kid. And
mm,
he's going to be going up against grown professional athletes where the guys in front of him can't really protect him. And I would hate to see him suffer an injury that's going to knock him out into anything into next season. If you
yeah.
want to play him after week 8 and get him in when the season's pretty much done and maybe your offensive line's figured it out a little bit more than what they've got right now, fine. I haven't seen enough to want to just be like, he's going to change the way the season's going to go this year if he's in there, because he's not going to. Um, and when you're talking about Drake May and like what he's done and lauding him for his performance in the preseason this year, I agree with where you're coming from. But I've seen a lot of the highlights that I've seen, the throws that he's made, his mobility, him not forcing so many balls into bad areas. It seems like his reads are on point for the most part. He's further along than I thought he would be at
Mm,
this stage. Now, that's not me saying that he's ready or should be playing week 1 or anything like that. But the example I gave just before about that throw going out of bounds, and I get it, it's against bad talent. The receiver was wide open. The corner was nowhere near KJ Osborne on this throw, but he threw that on the run off his back foot, across his body, and nailed him. The receiver didn't even have to move for the ball.
Yeah.
And it seems like he's got some strength behind that arm. That's something we haven't seen here in 5 years since Brady was here. Mac Jones couldn't do that. Mac Jones couldn't even come close to doing something stupid or not something like that. He would have thrown that to the cornerback, who was 5 yards away from from KJ Osborne. So there's a lot to be excited and optimistic about, but let's not anoint him the next Patrick Mahomes or next Brady or next Manning or next Rodgers. Like, we're not there yet. Like, let him sit and learn.
That's my big thing is, like I said, it was like the word I got to keep going back to is potential. The potential is there because he shows the flashes. Like, that very specifically, it wasn't the KJ Osborne play. There was I want to say it was either Polk or it was Baker or somebody. There was a play where he kind of rolled a little bit to his left and then threw a dime on. It was like a post pattern where the guy was just, it was a beautiful throw. I want to say on like third down or something, that I'm sitting there going, damn, that's a nice looking ball he just threw there. But I forget if it was the play before or the play immediately after where he got a little like excited because he got a little pressure on him, and the running back was like 3 yards in front of him with 20 yards of green grass, and May tried to do like a little lob, like dump pass to him, and he threw it like 10 fucking feet over his head. And it's just like you said, it goes back to he's a kid. He's a kid at the end of the day, and there's going to be the ups and downs, and it's so difficult to sit there because I do personally think that putting May out there gives them the best chance to win right now because he has that skill set that I think is better than what Jacoby Brissett brings to the table. However, Brissett also has the experience, the playmaking in the league against. Well, I'm trying to be nicer about it, but yeah, agreed. But I'm saying like Jacoby's gone against true NFL players. That's a big thing too, because we can sit there and say like I said, May had a great throw. He had some really nice throws last night. He had some really bad ones. But again, like you said, it was against the Washington Commanders scrub team.
Washington Commanders had the 2nd overall pick last year, so they don't have a lot of talent to begin with.
That's what I'm saying is like he's not going to be those dimes that he threw. Like, do you think they're going to end up just as well if he's going against a Sauce Gardner for the Jets with Quinn Williams breathing down his neck, Jalen Ramsey and the Dolphins? I mean, like, there's a lot to be excited about going forward for the future of the franchise. There's a lot to be scared and nervous about with the future of this franchise.
If this team wanted their rookie quarterback starting day one and wanted to start competing, they would not be sitting with millions of dollars of cap space on the table right now. They would have addressed the offensive line early in free agency and made a big splash. They would have addressed wide receiver and went out and really traded for Brandon Ayuk or T. Higgins to make it an offer that the guy can't refuse. You're talking about a team that clearly has indicated from the start of the offseason back in March that they are punting this season. They are rebuilding and they are building something. Don't rush your build by throwing a guy out there to get killed. Because if he suffers an injury to that throwing arm, it may never be the same after that injury. Don't risk that. If you had told me that they went out and they fixed that offensive line and that offensive line had looked good in the preseason and they seemed to have their shit together, okay, let's see what he can do with these other young rookies that they drafted, and let's see what happens. That offensive line is going to get whoever plays killed. Jacoby Brissett is more apt to handle that because he is experienced in the league and has been around for a decade and can deal with that. This kid, not ready yet. Don't risk it. It's not worth it. Yeah, we all want a meaningful season this year, right? We all want meaningful Patriots football. We're in territory that we are not used to, that you and I haven't seen since we were elementary school kids. We haven't seen this. So just take a page out of Kansas City's book. Let them play the season. Let him work on his mechanics some more, work on his footwork some more, get bigger, get more intelligent with the playbook. And let's see what happens next offseason when all that cap space that you have right now rolls over into next season. You can spend more money. Let's see what happens then. And let's just say any wins, any type of quality football that we see this year is just gravy.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, I've accepted. I've accepted this season's just going to be another shit season of the Patriots football, and you know, I still won't root for them to lose, like you, but we could be looking at another top 5 pick next year. Which, if that happens, I've already accepted it. I've already accepted the fact that they're not going to be in the playoffs or anything like that. So if that happens, that's great. That's gravy. Let's do it. Let's add to this rebuild. Maybe take a page out of Chicago's book. Let's see how Chicago does this year with all their young talent and the team that they've assembled. Let's see how they take the step, and maybe they become a model that you want to model your rebuild around.
I mean, that's just it. Like I said, at the end of the day, you know, you gotta. The NFL has been and always will be a copycat league, and the biggest thing that you can learn from everything, like you said, is to copycat the
Mm-hmm.
guys that win or have proven success records. I mean, I
Nobody could
just
replicate the Patriots. Nobody could replicate what the Patriots did because they had the two cheat codes. They had the coach and they
yeah,
had the quarterback.
yeah,
But everybody tried to model around that, which is why guys like Eric Mangini was getting head coaching jobs.
yeah,
So
yeah.
now
Romeo
everybody's taken from the
Crennel,
McVay tree for the head coaches.
yeah.
So everybody's trying to copy each other.
Yeah, I think the problem that really, and this will be my last real thought on the Patriots for right now, but like I think the thing that bothers me the most is we we had so many discussions in the off season and even last year when things were going terrible, where Belichick took the brunt force, and deservedly so, for a lot of the things that went wrong in last year and then the previous years before that. That being said, I just what bothers me is I haven't seen anything from this team that gives me a spark of hope in terms of like what the coaches are able to do this year. Because I look at like I watched all 3 preseason games and I get that I'm barking up probably the wrong tree here because preseason is preseason for a reason. A lot of coaches want to go vanilla. They don't want to show a lot of things, but it's also like I had alluded to earlier in the episode, is that like it's a time to experiment. It's a time to try different things. And I guess just what bothers me is like Mayo, I want to give the benefit of the doubt to, but I haven't seen anything exciting from him where he's sitting there going, I want to be a player's coach. I want to coach these guys up and I want to be, you know, their buddy at the end of the day, because you got to coddle every fucking person that comes in the
Mm-hmm.
NFL now. Apparently that's the new way that we got to do things. And Belichick was a mean, grumpy guy, so we couldn't do that way. But like every time they show Mayo on the sidelines, it was just the same stoic, like, mm, mm, mm. Like he didn't show any emotion regardless of plays or not. Like even the play where May threw the touchdown, he didn't go like, I didn't see him go
Yeah.
like crazy over that. And then he also didn't get upset with the fucking penalties. Like show emotion.
They showed a
You-
couple of clips where he seemed like he was getting agitated. There was a couple of times you saw it, but I mean, it wasn't anything like you would
But
have seen Bill do.
get
Yeah,
after
he
it,
wasn't
because
getting
that's the
after it.
thing is like you want to teach these guys, they're not getting the fucking message. If a referee sitting there going once again, once again, once again, like they're not getting the fucking message from the refs. You need to be getting it from a fucking coach. Like Zolak, when I was ESPN played a clip of Zolak on the call where he was just like, where the fuck is the offensive line coach? I don't disagree. Where is the
I don't
offensive
either.
line
I don't
coach?
either.
I would have fired him after the second one. We had 4 of them last night.
Three
It's
by the
just
same guy. No,
it,
dude, just
it's just
my
like real quickly. I just Mayo has to change things quickly, because this is going to be you want to sit there and talking about top 5 pick. They're going to have a fucking number 1 pick if this is the way that the season's going to go. If they're not going to clean up the shit now, but then on top of that too, get crazy. We just had 20 plus years of Belichick football where it was you kind of expected what he was going to do to a certain extent, where it was like, all right, well, this is what we're going to do. Show me some trick plays. Show me some shit that I haven't seen before with this Patriots organization in 20 plus years of having Brady and Belichick. Like you have players like we went on this, like I said, I went on this tangent last year about was it Cunningham? Cunningham
yeah.
was the quarterback, right? Like throw him in there. Let him do crazy shit. Run a reverse with him or something. You know what I mean? Like do something wild. I don't want to see the same whole drum bullshit. Go for it on fourth downs. Go for 2-point conversions. Do fake field goals. Go for fake punts. I want to see some shit that's going to make this, like you said, we're accepting that we're going to be a shit team, but make it fucking exciting to watch because guess what? I wanted to turn off the TV after the first quarter of almost every game last year. Don't give me a reason to want to turn the TV off. Like, if you're going to get your ass kicked in style. Like, Detroit makes it fun. Like, even when they sucked, they at least made it fun because they
Mhm.
were doing crazy shit. Patriots are just like, oh, it's 4th down and 3. Well, I guess we'll just punt the ball again. Like, what are we fucking doing? All right, I'm done. I'm done ranting. You take
My
over.
final thought about Mayo, you are getting the vibe that you're seeing a lot of the same thing. They're obviously not going to reveal their hands in the preseason, especially if they have some crazy stuff. They're not going to reveal it probably even this season. Let's be real. If it's they're not going to waste it and put it on tape for other teams to see. We do have to afford him time. We have to afford him time to build. We're talking about three games of preseason football. And that's all we've seen from him. How often do we talk and laugh about teams? Oh, they look at Denver, for example, when they hired Nathaniel Hackett. They fired him in the first season, didn't even let him get him through a first season because they suck so bad and they look so inept. Like NFL teams and owners pull the carpet out from these head coaches way too fast. And they need to afford him the opportunity to build what he's going to do. That said, he starts making dumb decisions like putting Drake May out there on week 1. I'm going to move on to your side of the camp. Be like, you're an idiot. You're an
Oh,
idiot.
well, really quickly, I just want to say that I'm not on board. Like, I don't think he deserves to be fired or anything like that. My big thing is every preseason game we saw botch snaps. Every preseason game we saw May get stepped on. Every preseason game we've seen stupid fucking penalties.
Mm-hmm.
And when is the time to clean that up? Is it in season or is
Hey,
it in the fucking preseason?
week 1 through 4 is an extension of the preseason.
No, that. Oh my god! All right, I'm done. I'm done.
Take it away.
No, fuck that shit. I'm done. Um, it's gonna be a long year. It's gonna
Plug
be
it
a
up.
long
We're
year.
done.
Football's back, baby. Football's back. All right. Well, for those of you out
Ready to
there,
have another heart attack and my blood
yeah.
pressure to raise all season again.
I was trying so hard not to get all fucking hot and bothered in tonight's episode, and I just couldn't handle it with all the Patriots, man. They do it to me, especially when you're trying to get your hopes up, but you can't anymore. But that's gonna do it for this episode. Thank you guys if you've made it this long with the two of us clowns over here. We missed you guys. I know we took a few weeks off there, but we're back. We're going forward. Speaking of going forward and new things, we are actually partnered with a new network as of recently. It is the Fans First Sports Network. So that's where we're going to be hanging out now. That's our home base. And Burge and I, we're probably going to be doing a little writing for them. And we got some other projects coming along yet. I don't want to spoil too many things. Keep your ears to the ground for that stuff. But yeah, we're back. We're excited. Fans First Sports Network. Go check it out. Go check out their website. Go check out the other podcasts. We got some amazing people out there. Amazing podcasts. They cover all sports, all NFL, all NHL, MLB, mixed martial arts. I mean, Christ, if it's a sport, they're probably covering it. So go check
Mm-hmm.
it out. Burge, before we plug this supper, Jesus, I can't even talk. That tells you how
I
long it's
got
been
you
since
all
we've
hot and
been on.
bothered, man.
That's it happens. It happens. You got anything for our loyal listeners out there before we plug it up?
I'm ready to go. I'm just ready for football season to start, man. I've been waiting for it now. Geez, over 6 months since the Super Bowl. Best time of year's coming up. Fall, leaves changing, hoodie weather. Great for us fatties. No more heat waves that we endured this summer.
Thank
Just
God.
excited for all the things coming and excited for chatting with all of you and providing this content, with Hogan and I bickering back and forth, getting all hot and bothered. We're excited to bring it to you. So be sure to check it out. All the links to the websites and stuff will be on our socials, which are at Tackles Pod on X is the big one. So be sure to follow us and get at us if you got any questions or anything you want us to talk about. But let's go. Football's back. Woo!
That's right. It's back, whether you like it or not. I know my wife doesn't like it. I can tell you that. But anyway, that's gonna wrap this one up. Thank you guys as always. You all are the best of the best. We love and appreciate every single one of you. and we'll see you when we see you.
Peace.
Later.